The massive alien ship appeared without warning. One moment the sky above Washington, D.C. was clear, and the next a vessel larger than any human building hung in the air. It sparked panic at first, then wonder as the ship remained peacefully in place. Richard Coleman straightened his tie for the 5th time. As Earth's chosen ambassador, the weight of humanity's future rested on his shoulders. Beside him, Commander Susan Wright stood tall in her crisp United Earth Alliance uniform, her face showing no emotion despite the importance of this moment. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady. Richard nodded, as ready as anyone can be to meet aliens for the first time. The meeting location was the National Mall, cleared of civilians and surrounded by nervous military personnel. A beam of light shot down from the alien vessel, and 5 figures materialized. They were tall, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms each. Their clothing shimmered with technology beyond human understanding. The central figure stepped forward. "I am High Chancellor Zorn of the Thexian Empire, lead representative of the Galactic Confederation. We have come to evaluate your species." Richard moved forward with a practiced smile. "High Chancellor, I am Ambassador Richard Coleman. On behalf of Earth and humanity, we welcome you and seek peaceful relations." Zorn's large eyes blinked slowly as he looked around. His mouth formed what might have been a smile, but seemed more like a sneer. "Your world is quaint," he said. The translator device on his chest gave his words a metallic quality. "We have watched your development for some time. Your progress is remarkably slow." Commander Wright tensed beside Richard. He placed a supple hand on her arm. "We are a young spacefaring species," Richard replied diplomatically. "We look forward to learning from the Confederation." The alien delegation requested a tour of Earth's best technology and scientific achievements. At NASA headquarters, they examined human spacecraft with something close to amusement. At the Pentagon, they barely glanced at military equipment. In every location, Zorn and his team exchanged looks that needed no translation. The final meeting took place in the White House. Zorn stood before Earth's assembled leaders and delivered his assessment. "The Galactic Confederation has classified Earth as a Tier 4 species," he announced. "This entitles you to limited trade rights and restricted territory within your own solar system." "What exactly does Tier 4 mean?" Richard asked, though he suspected the answer. Zorn didn't try to hide his condescension. "It means you are barely worth acknowledging. Your technology is primitive. Your physical forms are weak. Your understanding of the universe is childlike." The room grew tense. Several military officers looked ready to speak, but Richard raised his hand slightly. "And what would it take to improve our standing?" he asked calmly. Zorn made a sound like laughter. "You would need centuries to reach Tier 3. Your biology limits you. Your thinking is too linear. Your emotions make you unpredictable and unreliable." Commander Wright could no longer stay silent. "We've achieved space travel in less than a century after flight. Our adaptability is our strength." The aliens actually laughed now, a harsh sound that filled the room. "Strength. Your strongest human would be no match for even a Thexian child. Your fastest ships are toys to us. Your weapons wouldn't penetrate our basic shields." Zorn turned to leave, then stopped. "You have 1 decade to prove you deserve better than protective status. Otherwise, we will return to place Earth under Confederation management." After the aliens departed, Richard stood at the window watching their ship vanish into the stars. "They think we're weak," Commander Wright said, anger in her voice. Richard turned, his expression thoughtful. "No, Susan. They think we're predictable, and that will be their biggest mistake." President Olivia Martinez stood at the head of the table, looking at the small group of people she had personally selected. The room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains was secure, off all official records. Only 12 people in the world knew it existed. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we have 10 years before the Confederation returns. 10 years to prove humanity isn't just a Tier 4 species worth nothing more than their protection." Dr. William Hayes, A physicist with wild gray hair and tired eyes raised his hand. "Madam President, from what little we saw of their technology, we're centuries behind. 10 years isn't enough." "It would be if we followed their rules," the president replied. "But we won't. That's why you're all here." She walked around the table, stopping beside Catherine Powell, an engineer whose innovations in energy systems had revolutionized power grids worldwide. "Ms. Powell, what did you see when you studied the footage of their ships?" Catherine smiled. "Inefficiency. Their propulsion system uses principles similar to what we theorized, but they're wasteful. They have so much power, they don't care about optimization." The president nodded and moved to General Alan Rodriguez, whose unconventional military strategies had earned him both admirers and critics. "General, your assessment of their military approach." Rodriguez leaned forward. "Rigid, structured. They rely on overwhelming force rather than adaptation. They've likely faced few real challenges in centuries." "Exactly," President Martinez said. "They're advanced but complacent. We won't outpower them, but we might outsmart them." She called this initiative Project Phoenix. While Earth publicly accepted the Confederation's terms and limitations, these brilliant minds worked in secret, studying every second of footage, every reading, every word from the alien visitors. Dr. Hayes spent weeks analyzing energy readings from the alien ship. "They don't understand quantum entanglement the way we do," he told the group one day. "They use brute force approaches where elegant solutions exist." Catherine Powell worked day and night on propulsion concepts. Using the alien designs as inspiration rather than blueprint, she created something new. A hybrid system that combined Confederation principles with human innovation. "Their ships are like cruise liners," she explained. "Powerful but predictable. What I'm designing is more like a speedboat. Quick, agile, surprising." General Rodriguez focused on strategy rather than technology. "They'll expect us to copy them," he said. "Instead, we'll use their expectations against them. Their mockery of our physical limitations. We'll develop systems that turn those limitations into advantages." 6 months into the project, they had working prototypes. A year later, they had functional systems that exceeded expectations. The president kept all of this hidden from public view. Officially, Earth was simply trying to improve within the limits set by the Confederation. Dr. Hayes made the first major breakthrough 3 years into the project. "Their communication systems have a fundamental flaw," he announced one morning. "They rely on faster-than-light transmissions that follow predictable patterns. I've developed a method to intercept and potentially disrupt them." Catherine Powell's innovation came next. A drive system that could make micro-jumps during combat, something the Confederation materials suggested was impossible. "They don't think it's possible because they never tried," she explained. "They found one way that worked and stopped looking." By the 5th year, Earth had a small fleet of prototype ships hidden on the far side of the moon. They weren't as large or powerful as Confederation vessels, but they were different in ways that mattered. President Martinez visited the secret lunar base to inspect the progress. As she looked at the sleek ships, General Rodriguez stood beside her. "Will it be enough?" she asked quietly. The general smiled. "They expect us to play their game by their rules. We won't. That's our advantage." What no one expected was that they would need these advantages much sooner than planned. The Confederation was about to face a crisis that would shake their complacent certainty and give humanity an unexpected chance to prove their worth. The alarm sounded throughout the secret lunar base. General Rodriguez rushed into the command center, where screens showed unusual activity near Jupiter. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sir, an unidentified ship just appeared," a young officer reported. "It's not one of ours, and it's not Confederation design either." The strange vessel was damaged, trailing energy as it limped into the solar system. Before Earth's forces could decide how to respond, 3 larger ships appeared in pursuit, firing weapons that tore through space. "Get me the president," Rodriguez ordered. Within minutes, President Martinez appeared on the main screen, her expression grim. "We've been contacted by the Confederation," she said. "Those aren't their ships. They claim it's a species called the Nexeri. Apparently they've launched attacks across multiple Confederation worlds." The Nexeri. Dr. Hayes had entered during the conversation. "The aliens never mentioned them. They're requesting our help," the President continued, disbelief in her voice. "The ship being chased is Confederation. They're asking for sanctuary." Rodriguez frowned. "After how they treated us, why should we help?" "Because it's an opportunity," Catherine Powell said, joining them. "One we didn't expect to get for 5 more years." The decision came quickly. 2 of Earth's prototype ships moved out from behind the moon, revealing themselves for the first time. They intercepted the Nexeri vessels near Jupiter, small compared to the alien craft, but moving with surprising speed and agility. The Nexeri ships fired, expecting easy targets. Instead, the human vessels performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, using Powell's micro-jump technology to appear and disappear across short distances. The damaged Confederation ship escaped to Mars orbit, where more human ships waited in protective formation. When the battle ended, the humans had destroyed 1 Nexeri ship and driven the others away. The true shock came when they boarded the damaged Confederation vessel. Ambassador Zorn himself was aboard, his blue skin pale with injury, and his usual arrogance replaced by desperation. "You," he said when Richard Coleman entered the medical bay where the aliens were being treated. "You are the human from first contact." "I am," Richard replied calmly. "Welcome back to our Tier 4 planet." Zorn lowered his gaze. "The Nexeri attacked without warning. Our outer worlds have fallen. They fight differently than we are prepared for." "Differently how?" General Rodriguez asked, entering behind Richard. "They do not follow proper battle formations. They use tactics that seem irrational, unpredictable." Zorn's voice held confusion. "Our defense systems are designed for logical opponents." Richard and the general exchanged knowing glances. The Confederation's rigid thinking, the very thing they had mocked humans for lacking, was now their weakness. President Martinez called an emergency meeting with Zorn and the other Confederation survivors. In the lunar base conference room, Earth revealed what they had been developing in secret. "Impossible," one of the Confederation scientists said, looking at the technology diagrams. "You cannot have advanced this quickly." "We didn't advance the way you expected," Catherine Powell explained. "We didn't try to copy you. We found our own path." Zorn looked at the human leaders with new eyes. "You achieved in 5 years what we predicted would take centuries. We need your help," another Confederation officer admitted. "The Nexeri are pushing toward our core worlds. Our traditional defenses are failing." President Martinez leaned forward. "We will help you, High Chancellor, but not as a Tier 4 species under your protection. We want full membership in the Confederation and recognition of human sovereignty." Zorn hesitated, then nodded slowly. "The Confederation Council will agree to your terms. We have no choice." As the meeting ended, Richard Coleman watched the Confederation representatives whispering among themselves, still processing how wrong they had been about humanity. "They never expected to need us," Commander Wright said quietly beside him. "No," Richard agreed. "And they certainly never expected to need us so soon." Admiral Samantha Clark stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's flagship. Around her, human officers worked with quiet efficiency as the ship led a fleet of 20 human vessels toward the front lines of the Nexeri conflict. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her second-in-command replied. "Confederation escort will meet us at the jump point in 5 minutes." Samantha nodded. The Confederation had insisted on providing an escort, claiming it was for navigation assistance. She knew better. They wanted to keep an eye on human technology. The Confederation escort consisted of 3 massive battleships that dwarfed the human vessels. Their commander, a Thexian named Frel, appeared on the main screen. "Admiral Clark, He said with obvious doubt in his voice. Are your ships prepared for combat? They appear rudimentary. Samantha smiled politely. We're ready, Commander Vrel. Don't worry about us. The combined fleet jumped to the conflict zone near Araxis Prime, an important Confederation outpost under siege by Nexari forces. The moment they arrived, alarm signals blared. Nexari attack formation. Commander Vrel shouted over the communication channel. Form defensive positions according to standard protocol. Instead, Admiral Clark gave different orders. Execute Operation Firefly. All ships, micro-jumps to designated coordinates. The human fleet disappeared in flashes of light, reappearing in seemingly random positions around the battlefield. The Confederation officers watched in shock as the small Earth vessels performed jumps that their scientists had declared impossible. They can't maintain formation that way, one Thexian officer complained. They're not trying to, Dr. Hayes replied from his position, at a special console on the Defiance. He had joined the mission to oversee his quantum communication technology. Watch. The human ships moved independently, but with obvious coordination. When Nexari vessels tried to target them, they would micro-jump away, appearing elsewhere to deliver precise strikes. Unlike the Confederation's massive energy weapons that required charging time, human weapons were smaller but fired continuously, never giving the enemy time to recover. Impossible, Commander Vrel whispered as he watched the battle unfold. How are they coordinating without standard communication protocols? On the Defiance, Dr. Hayes monitored his quantum entanglement communication system. It allowed instant, undetectable coordination between all human ships, something the Confederation had never achieved. The battle intensified when a group of 5 Nexari destroyers broke through toward the civilian evacuation ships. 3 Confederation battleships moved to intercept but were too slow and cumbersome. Firefly Squad 3, engage, Admiral Clark ordered calmly. 5 human ships jumped directly into the path of the Nexari. Catherine Powell's revolutionary shields, another technology the Confederation had dismissed as theoretically impossible, absorbed the initial Nexari attack. The human vessels then executed a complex maneuver, surrounding the Nexari ships and attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. Within minutes, the Nexari threat was neutralized. The evacuation ships escaped safely. When the battle ended, the human fleet had not lost a single vessel. 3 Confederation ships had been severely damaged. The Nexari had retreated, leaving behind 7 destroyed ships. Commander Vrel requested permission to board the Defiance. When he arrived on the bridge, he looked around with new respect. Your technology, he said slowly, we did not believe it possible. Admiral Clark nodded. That was your mistake, Commander. You judged us by your standards, your limitations. How did you develop micro-jump technology? Our scientists said the energy requirements would tear a ship apart. Catherine Powell, who had joined the mission as chief engineer, stepped forward. We approached the problem differently. Instead of forcing more power through the system, we redesigned the system itself. Later, in a secure communication with Earth, Admiral Clark reported to President Martinez. The demonstration was successful, she said. The Confederation officers are shocked. High Chancellor Zorn has requested a full briefing on our capabilities. The President smiled. And what did you tell them? That we're just getting started. Jack Miller straightened his uniform as the transport ship docked at Thexia Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Confederation. As Earth's new ambassador, he had big shoes to fill. Richard Coleman had done the groundwork, but now it was Jack's job to secure humanity's new position. Nervous? Asked Dr. Patricia Lee, Earth's leading xenobiologist and part of Jack's diplomatic team. A little, Jack admitted. Last time a human delegation came here, they were barely given proper diplomatic status. Patricia smiled. Things have changed. Indeed they had. When Jack's team stepped onto the arrival platform, they were greeted by a full honor guard of Thexian officials. The lead official bowed deeply, a gesture that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Ambassador Miller, Welcome to Thexia Prime. The Council awaits your arrival. The human delegation was escorted to hovering vehicles that transported them through the gleaming alien city. Massive structures of crystal and metal reached toward the sky, built by a civilization thousands of years older than humanity's. "They're watching us," Patricia whispered, noting the crowds of aliens gathering to see the humans pass. "We're celebrities now." Jack nodded. "Celebrity is fleeting. We need to secure permanent respect." The Confederation Council chamber was a vast circular room with representatives from 200 species. When Jack entered, he noticed something unusual. Many council members stood up. It was a sign of respect that had never been shown to a Tier 4 species before. High Chancellor Zorn greeted Jack at the center of the chamber. The Thexian leader who had once mocked humanity now showed careful deference. "Ambassador Miller," Zorn said, loud enough for all to hear. "The Confederation welcomes Earth's representative with full diplomatic honors." Jack bowed slightly. "Thank you, Chancellor. Earth is pleased to assist the Confederation in these difficult times." The formal part of the meeting went well. Earth was officially elevated to Tier 2 status, an unprecedented jump that caused murmurs among the delegates. Trade agreements were established, technology exchange programs were initiated, and Earth was granted expanded territory rights. After the public session, Jack was invited to a private meeting with Zorn and the Council's inner circle. Once the doors closed, the atmosphere changed. "Your ships," one alien counselor said without preamble. "How did you develop them so quickly?" Another added, "Your quantum communication system breaks theoretical models our scientists established centuries ago." Jack smiled. "Earth approaches problems differently. Where your scientists specialize deeply in one area, ours often work across disciplines. Our engineers talk to our biologists. Our physicists work with our chemists." "Inefficient," a tall, insect-like counselor commented. "Perhaps," Jack conceded, "but effective. When faced with challenges, we find new paths rather than relying solely on established ones." Chancellor Zorn had remained quiet, but now he spoke. "We underestimated your species, Ambassador Miller. A significant diplomatic error on my part." The room fell silent. For the Chancellor to admit error was unprecedented. "May I speak candidly, Chancellor?" Jack asked. Zorn nodded. "Your assessment of humanity wasn't entirely wrong. We are physically weaker than many species here. Our history is shorter. Our technology was less advanced." Jack paused. "But you missed what makes us strong. Our adaptability, our creativity when faced with limitations, and our willingness to collaborate." Later, as the diplomatic reception wound down, Chancellor Zorn approached Jack in a quiet corner. "Ambassador," he said in a low voice, "I must personally apologize for my conduct during first contact. I was arrogant." Jack could have enjoyed this moment of triumph, could have reminded Zorn of his mockery. Instead, he simply nodded. "Chancellor, humans have a saying. The best revenge is living well. We're not interested in making you regret your words. We're interested in building a better galaxy together." Zorn looked surprised, then thoughtful. "Perhaps that is why you advanced so quickly. You do not waste energy on grudges." "No," Jack said. "We save our energy for more important things." As Jack rejoined his team, Patricia asked, "How did it go with Zorn?" Jack smiled. "I think the Confederation is finally beginning to understand us." Red alert sirens blared throughout the combined fleet. Admiral Samantha Clark rushed to the bridge of the UES Defiance as her officers scrambled to battle stations. "Report," she commanded. "Massive Nexari fleet just jumped into the system." "Admiral," her tactical officer replied. "Over 50 ships, the largest force we've seen yet. They're heading straight for Thexia Prime." This was what everyone had feared. The Nexari had launched their main offensive against the heart of the Confederation. "Alert all Earth vessels," Samantha ordered, "and open a channel to the Confederation Command." The face of Fleet Commander Drax appeared on screen. The reptilian alien scales were pale with stress. "Admiral Clark," he said, "our long-range sensors confirm this is the Nexari main battle group. They have brought their world-breaker weapon." Samantha's blood ran cold. Intelligence reports had mentioned this superweapon, capable of cracking a planet's crust. If it reached Thexia Prime, billions would die. "We'll stop them," she said with more confidence than she felt. The combined Human Confederation fleet moved to intercept the Nexari. Despite their recent cooperation, the difference in battle styles was immediately apparent. Confederation ships formed precise, traditional formations while human vessels moved in seemingly random patterns that actually followed General Rodriguez's innovative battle plans. "Maintain communication with the Confederation ships," Samantha reminded her crew. "Remember, we fight together or we fail separately." The battle erupted with blinding energy weapons and explosive impacts. The Nexari fought with savage efficiency, targeting the larger Confederation vessels first. 3 massive Thexian battleships exploded in the first exchange. "They're breaking through Sector 7. Dr. Hayes called from his station. "The evacuation ships are in danger." Samantha made a quick decision. "Redirect the Defiance to Sector 7. We'll cover the civilian transports." The Defiance raced across the battlefield, its engines straining. Behind it, 5 more human ships followed. They arrived just as a group of Nexari destroyers closed in on the defenseless evacuation vessels carrying thousands of Confederation civilians. "All power to forward shields," Samantha ordered. "Place us between the Nexari and those transports." The Defiance shuddered as enemy fire hammered its shields. Catherine Powell's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Shields at 40% and dropping, Admiral. We can't take much more." "Hold position," Samantha insisted. "Those transports need 2 more minutes to reach the jump point." Another devastating hit rocked the ship. "Shields at 15%. Samantha gripped her command chair. "Evacuation status. Last transport jumping in 30 seconds. Another hit sent crew members flying across the bridge. A support beam crashed down, narrowly missing Samantha. "Shields critical. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. "Stand your ground," Samantha said calmly, even as warning lights flashed all around her. "We hold until those people are safe." The final civilian transport disappeared into the safety of hyperspace just as the Defiance's shields collapsed. Nexari weapons tore into the human flagship. "Get to the escape pods," Samantha ordered her crew. "I'll keep them busy." "Admiral," her second-in-command protested, "you can't." "That's an order," she said firmly. "Someone needs to pilot the ship." As the bridge crew reluctantly evacuated, Samantha plotted a collision course with the lead Nexari vessel. Her hands were steady as she bypassed safety protocols. Across the battlefield, Confederation commanders watched in shock as the Defiance, burning and broken, accelerated directly toward the largest enemy ship. "What are they doing?" Commander Vrel asked in disbelief. Chancellor Zorn, who had insisted on being present at the command center, watched silently, his expression unreadable. The Defiance slammed into the Nexari vessel at near light speed. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. For a moment, all was still. Then, General Rodriguez's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "For Admiral Clark." Human ships surged forward with renewed determination. Confederation vessels, inspired by the sacrifice, broke their rigid formations and followed the humans' lead. The tide of battle had turned. 3 months after the Battle of Thexia Prime, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the rebuilt council chamber. The room was different now, arranged in a circle with no raised platforms, no special seats for higher-tier species. Every delegate sat at the same level. President Olivia Martinez stood to address the assembly. As Earth's leader, she was the first human ever invited to speak before the full Galactic Confederation. "Friends," she began, her voice clear and strong. "We gather today not just as survivors, but as builders of a new future. The chamber was silent. Every being, from the mighty Fexians to the smallest member species, listening intently. The Nexari threat taught us all a valuable lesson. She continued, strength comes in many forms. Innovation comes from unexpected places, and together we are greater than the sum of our parts. Among the Earth delegation sat Richard Coleman, the man who had endured the Confederation's mockery during first contact. Now he served as the head of the newly formed Interspecies Cooperation Council. Beside him, Dr. Hayes and Catherine Powell were honored guests, their technological breakthroughs now being studied across the galaxy. Chancellor Zorn rose when President Martinez finished speaking. He looked older, the blue of his skin slightly faded, but his voice remained strong. 5 years ago, I stood before a group of humans and told them they were barely worth acknowledging, he said. It was the greatest mistake of my long life. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Today, I propose that Earth be recognized as a Tier 1 civilization, with all rights and privileges that entails. The vote was unanimous. In the history of the Confederation, no species had ever risen from Tier 4 to Tier 1 in such a short time. After the ceremony, Richard Coleman walked through the gardens outside the council chamber. Memorial statues had been erected to honor those lost in the war. The largest was of Admiral Samantha Clark, her human form standing proudly beside monuments to fallen Confederation heroes. Quite a change, isn't it? Said a voice behind him. Richard turned to see Chancellor Zorn approaching slowly. Yes, Richard agreed. Hard to believe it's been only 5 years since you first arrived on Earth. Zorn nodded. You must have hated me then. Richard smiled. Hate requires too much energy, Chancellor. We preferred to use that energy more productively. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the memorials. What happens now? Zorn finally asked. Now we learn from each other, Richard replied. Your people have knowledge from thousands of years of space travel. We have fresh perspectives and different approaches to problems. Across the city, Earth's influence was already apparent. Confederation scientists were studying human educational methods that encouraged creative thinking and cross-disciplinary approaches. Earth had become a hub for innovation, with delegations arriving daily to learn and collaborate. In a classroom nearby, a young human diplomat named Lisa Chen was teaching alien students about Earth history. But how did you advance so quickly? A young Thexian asked. Our historical models predicted centuries of development for your technology. Lisa smiled. We didn't follow the expected path. When faced with limitations, humans often find unexpected solutions. Later, she encountered Richard walking back from the gardens. Mr. Coleman, she said respectfully, may I ask you something? You were there at first contact. How did you feel when they laughed at us? Richard looked toward the setting sun of Thexia Prime, thinking back to that day that seemed so long ago. I wasn't angry, he said thoughtfully. I was curious. They saw our emotions as weakness, our diversity as chaos, our adaptability as lack of focus. And those turned out to be our strengths, Lisa said. Richard nodded. That's humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Lisa, we reminded everyone that there are many paths to greatness, many forms of strength, and sometimes the qualities others mock may be the very things that save them in the end. As night fell on the Confederation capital, lights from 1,000 different worlds glowed in harmony. A galaxy forever changed by the species once deemed barely worth acknowledging.